Hi, everyone. I am back. I'm sorry that I've been kind of missing these last few months, but I am back and I am so excited to show you what I've been up to and building over the last couple months. So I don't want to do too much talking here. I definitely want to just jump into showing you all. But if you're listening to the audio only version of this, either on Spotify or YouTube, feel free to finish this, while you're walking or driving or whatever, but definitely come back and watch the video because I promise you, you will not want to miss these demos. Also, I will be going through and using some of these weird tools. I promise I'll explain all of the technology behind everything later on in the video, so be sure to stick around. Okay, so the easiest and the simplest way that I can explain what I've been building is I've essentially built an MCP server. So I won't take the time to explain exactly how MCP works at this very moment, but the long and the short of it is MCP allows an LLM to connect with external systems like Workday. So that's essentially what I've done is I've given an opportunity for an LLM to connect to our Workday preview tenant and do a ton of really cool stuff. So I would love to show you some of that really cool functionality. So I can enter a query very, very simply, just like this one. It says, can you find a Workday report that can show e-verify case numbers? So I'll go ahead and submit that query. As this runs, I do want to take some time to explain what we're looking at here. So we're looking at a system called LM Studio, and this program lets me run local AI on my laptop. So this is not a performant type of setup by any means, but the reason that I'm doing it is so that I'm not unnecessarily sending my Workday data externally, not at this point. So again, the downside is performance. It's very, very slow, but the upside here is that being safe with our current Workday data, which is why I'm using this method at this point. But again, if this was real life, I would not recommend this at all. All right, so at this point, the LLM is now asking to use a tool called Search Reports. So I will go ahead and let it proceed. All right, and so the LLM did give a response back. So it's recommending the top 3 closest reports to my initial query. And the first recommendation looks like it's going to be spot on for what it is that I'm looking for. So the first recommendation is a report called Form I-9 Status and E-Verify Case Number. So I believe this is a custom report within our tenant. And again, did an incredible job recommending a report based off of what I was looking for, which was E-Verify case numbers. So let's go ahead and try a second one so that you can see this and so that you can know that I'm not lying and this is actually coming from our preview tenant. Okay, so I'll submit a query that says, can you find a Workday report that will show the number of sign-ons within the last month? And I'll let that run. All right, so again, it's wanting to call a tool called Search Reports. So I will let it proceed. All right, so the LLM is officially done with its answer. And it's, again, giving me some top recommendations based off of our tenant report data. And the top recommendation here is a report called Total Sign-Ons Last Month RAS CD Test, right? And so the reason that I wanted to point out this example specifically is because that top recommendation is actually a report that I am working on and haven't even published yet. But the LLM is still smart enough to know based off of that report definition and the fields, and then essentially what I was looking for to make that as a recommendation, which is awesome. So let's get into another use case, which is testing. So as Workday administrators, I don't know about you, but I find myself creating a ton of fake workers, and it just takes a long time to go through the create position process, create job requisition, and then hire the employee. So let's jump into the next use case. Okay, so we'll submit a query that says, can you create one test worker under the supervisory organization of the manager with the first name of Elmo and the last name of Monster? Make sure that this test worker is in the theme of the TV show The Office, and also make sure that the hire date is, actually, we'll make this in the past. Let's do January 10th, 2026. So let's say we're testing a condition rule for a date in the past. So we need a fake worker with a past hire date. So let's click submit and we'll see what it does. Okay, so this is something really awesome that I would love to point out. You'll see that the LLM was smart enough to understand that it actually needed to call another tool before it called the create test workers tool. So here it's actually realizing that it needs a supervisory organization ID, and it saw that it had a tool called search supervisory org that it could use to get that supervisory organization ID to call the create test workers tool. So this is really awesome. This just goes to show you that they're smart enough to understand all of the fields, all of the data that they need to get the job done. And they also know how to call these tools and in what order to call those tools to get the job done as well. So we'll let it proceed and we'll see what it does. All right. So it looks like the AI was able to create one test worker in the theme of the office. It looks like that test worker is named Dwight Halpert-Schrute. Not your best work, AI, but let's go ahead and check that out. Okay. So here we are in my preview tenant under Elmo Monster's supervisory organization. And here's that strange test worker in the theme of the TV show The Office, named Dwight Halpert-Schrute, and that is the assistant to the regional beat logistics coordinator positions. Hey, just to make sure that this came from the AI request, we'll check their hire date, and yep, it looks like their hire date is officially January 10th, 2026. So yeah, again, another use case for this type of MCP tool. Let's jump into a third one super quickly. Okay, so the last tool that I want to show you isn't quite as cool, but it's a continuation of my video from last April. So if you haven't watched that, definitely go back. It's all about AI workflows. Okay, I'll submit a query very similar to this one. So it says, can you reset the Workday password for the worker with the first name of Cookie and the last name of Monster? Again, these queries are phrased very, very weirdly, but it's because the LLM that I'm working with is just so small. I want to make sure that it's not going to fail. So I will click enter. But again, with the larger language models like Claude or ChatGPT, those are going to be much bigger and can read between the lines of my query. All right, and so here's another example of the LLM understanding that it needs to call another tool before it calls the main tool. So here it realized that it needs the employee's employee ID number in order to reset their password. And so it called this tool named search worker in order to get that employee ID number to run this main tool, which is reset worker password. So I'll let it run this tool. Okay. And it says that the password for Cookie Monster has been successfully reset in Workday. All right. So again, just to show you an example of the possibilities here, I am just so in awe of the potential of AI, right? And this is only going to keep getting better and smarter to make our lives much more efficient. You might be asking, like, Christian, why did you do this? Truthfully, I'm not really quite sure, but I think this is just a prime time to prototype. For me, I think there's a brand new skill to be acquired within the ecosystem, which is trying to figure out where AI works best and maybe what problems AI doesn't necessarily solve at this point, right? And all of that can only be understood and gained through actual building. AI is at a point right now that will allow us to prototype pretty quickly. So you can know with not that much time invested, like what's a good idea for AI and what's a bad idea for AI, but you will not know until you get started, right? So if you take nothing else away from this video, build something small, right? Start small, start for a problem that's personal and one that you have knowledge around. See if you can create a quick little prototype to see if, yeah, it's a great idea to use AI here, or you know what, maybe that's not a great idea to use AI here, right? But you'll never know until you start building. So start building. So from a technical perspective, because I know I'll get a ton of questions around this, really what I used to build all of this was Claude Code. So Claude Code is a coding agent that you can use, and it primarily built this MCP through Python. So just chatting with Claude Code and teaching it kind of some of my integrations knowledge or some of my knowledge around web services or WQL, we were able to make this happen. So practically speaking, Claude Code and this MCP is accessing Workday through a Workday API client. And that client has all the security that it needs to do the tasks that you just saw. I'm pulling data out of Workday through WQL, which is a ton of fun. So I would encourage you to, dive into that. And it's just really, really fun to work with. And then obviously any posting, anything that I'm doing in Workday, like creating a test worker, all of that is being done through Workday Web Services. And so, again, to reiterate, I was using LM Studio in order to run a local LLM on my machine so that I'm not unnecessarily sending my company's data elsewhere, right? At least not for this demonstration. So, again, it's not performant, which makes it not ideal to have this sort of setup with MCP and a local LLM, unless you have a crazy great computer. But the beautiful thing about MCP is that you could essentially plug that into any LLM. And the smarter the LLM, the better the experience will be for you and your MCP connection. So I'm just doing this so that I am not unnecessarily sending my company's data elsewhere. Definitely feel free to let me know if you found this to be interesting. Let me know your thoughts and comments. If there's even a specific tool that you want me to try to build, let me know that as well. If you're building anything like that, I would love to connect with you just to kind of brainstorm and have a lot of fun discussion that way. Stay tuned because my next few videos are going to be around AI as well. Additional things that I'm building, and I promise you, you will not want to miss those. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.